Sorry, go ahead. I forgot to start the recording.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So what are some of the challenges? Why is it that, I mean, it seems like you're serving people of color, and so how are you, how is the board being representative of the people that you serve? And also your staff, you have 61 people and only 15 are, from what we can tell, identify as people of color. So what are some of the challenges with hiring? I know in hiring in general right now is a challenge, but board members and staff.
Yeah, I think that is a very special effort of ours at this point in time. And so, we're sort of similar to working with youth, especially on the board. You have to build those relationships and sort of start there and create those connections for people. A focus of ours is definitely making deeper connections, wider connections with individuals that do represent the youth that we work with. And I think, like every organization, I wouldn't say it's definitely not a new effort at Together, but there's more attention on it in recent years. And yeah, it's a process that, even once you've recruited new people, you have board members that are cycling out. And so you have to sort of keep that channel open. And I know that our staff and our leadership are out there doing that work, and we've improved quite a bit over the last couple of years and are looking to do even better going forward. I don't know that answers your question though, sorry.
That was a good effort at answering it, but I get it. But so have you ever thought about some of the adults that you have that's in your program that have maybe been successful, graduated from it, or are able to receive secure housing afterwards, maybe that they can be on the board? Is there any, can you create a pipeline for them to get on the board, because they can understand, they can relate to the people you serve, and so I mean, you have a really great opportunity to have people of color on your board. Honestly, you really do. So I mean, especially because you serve so many people of color, and it's just the way you train your youth. You can also, in that youth council, it sounds amazing. You can have some of them on your board. So I mean, there are ways that you can get them on your board. I just think you have to be more strategic. And we're in almost 2022. There really aren't any excuses, because people of color are everywhere in Boulder County. So, so I would just like to see a little bit more effort towards, the people that you already serve that are adults, that you can possibly create some type of program for them, transition them to be board members if they choose to.
Yeah, and Shakita, I really appreciate the question, and we definitely, as an organization, have a lot of work to do in this area, and we are, working hard on it. And I think one of a couple big priorities of ours for this coming year. So we're doing a lot of youth leadership, and I think that we've been in the housing kind of focused intervention for the last couple of years, which means that young people are getting to that point where they're, stably housed, are able to kind of work on some really big goals and are interested in giving back. And so we're actively having those conversations about how to keep young people engaged. We're developing a staff position right now for a youth leadership advocate, and that ideally will be a previous participant who's had a little space from the program and wants to come in and be a part of the work we're doing, and will serve on the Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, will be a part of the board, will be a part of leadership meetings and staff meetings to contribute that voice and that perspective, because it's absolutely essential. And you're 100% right. We can't really do this work without making sure that we're lifting up the voices of the most oppressed who we serve. And so it's absolutely critical, and definitely not making any excuses. We've got a long road ahead of us, and we're working on putting in that time and working on figuring out how to strategically do this better. And the board is, the board is too. I think it's come certain strides, and really also dedicating time and resources and energy into the anti-oppression, the equity training that we're providing to not only staff members and to young people that we work with, but also to board members, because it has to come, it has to be every single person in the agency has to be aligned in that, and know that we're advancing our mission, because we're, equity is at the heart of what we do in terms of serving young people experiencing homelessness. And so, yeah, it's critical. So just wanted to add that.
I thought of my question.
Oh, sorry. If I could just add one more thing. This year, especially 2021, Together has started doing, really staff surveys and really looking at our hiring practices. And again, looking strategically at those steps we're taking, how we describe our jobs, how we connect with other organizations. Again, just trying to increase awareness about what we do among a wide range of people, but also trying to bring them into the fold and do it in the right way. We don't want to tokenize anyone. We want to have people who are truly invested, and people that we can work with and among, and yeah, it's not coming out right at all.
I'm gonna cut you off
But-
because we're about out of time, and I know I see Eliberto has a question.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's all right. My job's a timekeeper.
Yeah, so my question is really quick. I noticed on your because I'm a logic model guy, love reading that stuff. But you didn't have anything for Longmont. So
You only had Boulder.
you only have Boulder. So love to know. You can follow up with an email. I'm assuming activity the same, output's the same, percentages is just what the number is. That'd be good to know.
Yeah, happy to follow up with that.
Yes, and I will say that's my mistake. This was my first time completing this application on behalf of Together. And yeah, I guess, I was thinking I was applying to the city of Boulder and then realized that city of Longmont was included in that. So I apologize. We definitely have a reach in Longmont. I said city of Colorado, I mean Longmont.
So that is the 15 minutes. So I don't know, Caitlin, if there's anything, if you want to see if there's any other burning question,
I think
or you want to close up shop.
we're closing. Thank you both for your time this evening. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all for what you're doing. Keep it rapid fire,
All right, rapid
Keep it
fire.
going.
It's like a game show.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, take care. Thanks all.
So Eliberto, who else did you say was not going to be here tonight? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry,
Sorry, that mute button. Yeah, I knew Kim wasn't gonna be here.
Kim, that was it, Kim.
Right,
Yeah,
and you saw Deanne.
yeah.
You saw Deanne's email, and then Madeline wasn't gonna.
Right.
He didn't say that he wasn't gonna be here. So, but was Brian here last Monday?
No, Brian got a new job.
Did he let us? Yeah, no, that's great for Brian. Did he
I know that the board might not know that, but so.
Oh yeah. Brian's bigwig now. He's running this program for the state. This funding for small farmers is really great.
State Agriculture, I think, Department.
Right. Yeah, for the state. Yeah.
So he travels, I guess he travels as part of his job. So I don't know, but yeah, we haven't heard from him. So.
Yep. I'll follow up with him. Is it Effa not here yet? Effa's next, right?
It's 7. No, Julie.
I'll email Julie right now.
So, we did try to get a hold of Jenna's. Did you want to try to get a hold of Julie? You have her contact information?
I have her email. I don't have her phone. I don't have her direct phone, but I'm emailing her right now. I emailed her. I just don't have her. I don't have her direct line.
Two in one night. Wow.
Yeah, that's a little weird. We'll check in on that.
I was gonna say that 2 in 1 night, like when it's usually like one a year, to have 2 in 1 night makes you kind of go, huh, I wonder if something weird happened with the links or the invites, or
Yeah, I don't know.
people not realizing today is Thursday. And I thought it was Wednesday all day.
Well, it's really weird for me because last year everybody showed up. Yeah. Catherine, how are you feeling? Do you have any questions? Not that I'm going to answer. I'm a director to Karen and Eliberto, but I just want to check in on you, see if you have any questions.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just, very, very steep learning curve. So, but, I'm enjoying it all. I just, appreciate you all being patient with me.
Girl, please.
We all
They-
start
I
off
mean,
that
they
way.
are still patient with me, seriously. So
I told my family I always feel like I'm sure they're thinking, girl, keep up a little bit, but it's, I'm just so impressed with the work that everybody does. I feel like I want to go work at all these places and do all of it.
I did call her main number too, but it went straight to voicemail.
Okay, well, we'll see.
So when does the scoring all need to be done by?
Well, I think if if we're planning to do our deliberations at our November meeting, which would be,
The 11th?
10th, I
Well,
Well,
think.
the 11th is
we're off.
Veterans Day, so I think we're doing it on the 10th.
Then if I could get them by November 1st, so I could, I could do all the work I need to do, get them in.
Killing me, Alberto, you're killing me.
November 1st?
What's the next day?
Oh.
Huh? You're killing me, dude. You're killing me.
I was gonna say you're killing me. I can't stay up on Halloween night doing that.
So it sounds like we need to have a little more thought.
All right.
into that.
Well, okay, if you
The
get.
answer is, Karen, we don't know yet. How about that?
Good.
Yeah, we need to talk a little
That's
more.
fine. Just, I'm gonna put that on my schedule though, the November 10th. Okay. Human Housing Service.
Yeah, well, and Karen, did you talk to the board about October 14th?
I did.
Okay,
We're all
good.
happy. We're all happy
Yeah. All right.
because we have to do it.
And probably when we'll just send out a reminder that we're not going to meet on the 14th and then just confirm that we set our November meeting for the 10th. Does that ring a bell to anybody, or did we just think it up in our own minds? As
I don't think we talked about it yet.
I thought we talked about it. I kind of remember way back.
I
when.
think I feel like we talked about it a couple of months ago, but it was very like this is
out there, yeah.
yeah.
So we will confirm that and see if that date works for people.
I was trying to remember if Erica had sent out like an invitation for the November and December meetings, but
I don't think she had.
So did we at some point decide that we're gonna have all of our rest of our meetings till the end of the year virtual?
I don't know. I think Karen can answer that, but I think that was that's what Harold was asking us to do,
Oh, okay.
but
I was just seeing if I could find a cell phone for Julie. I think probably as long as the county masking order is in place, that we will continue to meet virtually. So then when that gets lifted, which has to be 21 days after we are in the yellow rather than the orange, so So I would imagine, yeah, probably through the end of at least through the end of November, I'm guessing, and maybe even into the next month. Well, I'm gonna get another cup of coffee. So hold down the fort or let anybody in that comes in. I've got time.
So what is everyone's favorite favorite thing about fall?
About what?
Fall.
Leave.
Football.
Football.
Halloween.
Halloween.
I like
me,
decorated.
How about you, Shakita?
I would say definitely the changing of the leaves. Definitely football. Can't believe I didn't think about that first. Oh, yes, football. And I love soup year round, but just the warm, it's getting ready to be cozy, the weather.
Had hot cocoa the other day. That was nice.
No pumpkin spice in it. Karen or Catherine?
Well, I always just like, the change. I'm always ready for the next season. So I'm done with summer. Now it's fall and I'm ready for it. And it's true. We got a football. My son is totally into football. He knows every player on every team and every coach. I mean, it's crazy around here, but it's definitely a football time of the year.
Yes.
And for me, I love Halloween and also baking, but baking is year round for me. So,
What do you like to bake?
oh, I love fancy baking. So cookies and cakes, and I just finished canning. So now it's time for baking. I did jam and pickles and everything.
Yum.
I love to cook.
Do you ever watch that British baking thing, the British baking show? Oh my God, the desserts on there is like, oh, I want to go out, but it's like, who wants to eat cake all the time? I'll make cakes and drop it off to everybody's house because it was just like, oh, I want to try that. They look so good. I have to check it out. Get inspired.
Yeah, it's all fine until it doesn't work. And then, of course, if you're not on a TV show, you can just, give it to the dog. But if you're on a TV show, it's kind of embarrassing when your cake just So I made a chantilly cake, which is 5 layers, and in each layer, the icing is made up of whipped cream and uh, creme fraiche, I think.
Yeah.
Or
Yum.
else it's that Italian cream stuff.
Right.
That I can't remember. Anyway, it's really rich. It's like a foot and about 18 inches high. It has berries in between the layers. It's ridiculous. It's very good, but you know,
Did it turn out?
only 2 people. It's way too much for 2 people. And I said, well, maybe. I said to my son, maybe I'll take it and give pieces to our neighbors. And he said, well, you know, delivering cake to your neighbors in a time of COVID is probably not going to go over too well, Mom. It's true. So we had to eat it ourselves. But
Holly, you can always bring it in to city staff.
I know.
Just
I
saying.
will
Ellie Brento
now.
and I will eat cake, or at
Okay.
least I will eat cake. And
No.
we don't care about COVID. You can bring it to us. I don't care.
Well, Karen, what
trust
do you
you.
like about fall?
Fall's not my favorite time of the year. So, you know, I grew up in the Midwest, and what I loved about it was just the low humidity and the beautiful hardwood trees that would turn colors. And I like anything pumpkin pie. It's pumpkin pie season. So,
Yeah, speaking of bacon, it really is wonderful time for pie.
yeah.
Apple pie, cherry pie, pumpkin pie, any, you know, lemon chiffon pie, any kind of pie. That's my favorite thing to make.
Well, Polly, you can make it and bring it into city staff.
I'm
You
just
did
like,
mention
thanks for
that,
letting me
yes.
know now, Polly.
You know, we're
I'll
in
have a
the
lot of
hood.
time on my hands soon.
We're downtown. We're close to you. All right. Well, at least we have the next group that's here. I am totally hungry now.
I might have to go off camera in a bit. They're ordering food downstairs, so
Well, I have a nice hot cup of coffee, so I need some dessert to go with it. I do have some chocolate in my office. I'm gonna have to do that.
Graham, you didn't tell us what you like about fall, or even if you like fall.
Fall's the best. I think that the whole sensory experience changes. The light, you know, dims and things get stiller, and the sound of the wind and dry leaf trees, that sort of rustling feeling, and it's way stiller and of a change comparatively to like spring or winter or summer. There's sort of more abrasive transitions to me, so I think it's very calming time. So
Plus, we get to sleep longer when time change.
I wish.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and let in our guests. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Karen.
Hey, Laura,
Hello.
how are y'all doing?
Well, how are you?
Good, good.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, if you're ready, we're ready. So we have the next 15 minutes for the Housing and Human Services Advisory Board to ask you questions and for you to provide fabulous answers. And Caitlin is our chair this year, so she will be facilitating this session, and I'm keeping the time. So when our time is up, I will let you know. So Caitlin, if you are ready to go, I've just started Beulah.
All right, Beulah the buzzer is our,
Yes.
is our timer. So is there anyone on the board who has a question to kick us off for the in-between? Graham?
Well, hi, Tim and Laura. Thanks for being here tonight. Do you have anybody on your board that has experienced homelessness?
Yes, we always maintain at least one person on the board that has been a former resident of the in-between. And we have a woman named Shannon who's on our board and has been for a couple of years now. Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you.
Karen Phillips?
Yeah, welcome to this thing this evening. Is there always staff at the unit? Is there always a full-time staff at your units? And how many units do you have?
Sure. We have 87 units, 6 buildings across Longmont right now. We don't have live-in staff, 24/7 care, if that's what you mean. It's independent living. However, our advocates, or we call our advocates, that rather than case managers, but it's all in the same, really, if you think of it. So our advocates, of which we have 3, are located and officed on site. So at any given time, they have office hours. Sometimes they rotate to the different buildings, but where we have office sites available, because not all sites have them. Their work and responsibilities primarily are to be on site and provide those services. So during the traditional hours, and they have some evening hours, and there's some classes that occur in the evening. So we have, I guess, fairly good representation during any given week. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Tim and Laura, in your agency budget, it looks like you had a fairly significant increase in your capital reserves from 2019 to the end of Q2, as well as operating reserves up that are up not nearly as significantly. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why that is and where that additional funding in your reserves has come from.
You talking about in 2020 or 20?
So it says that at the end of Q2, the capital reserves were at about 112, up from about 8,000 in 2019.
Oh, well, yeah, if you're looking over that span of time, over almost 3 years now, we've made a concerted effort to build our reserves, both operationally and on the capital side of things. It's fair to say that in the last couple of years has had pretty significant growth. We've finished completion of a building, our 5th building, and at the beginning of 2020, we purchased another building in the middle of the year last year. So we added a 5th and 6th building. Some of those capital dollars that came in were actually for the purpose of either finishing the build on one site or the purchase of the 6th building. Along the way, we have really made a strategic move to build those reserves, because as we adding assets, of course, then comes that responsibility that we need to make sure we can maintain those assets. So we were in a place, a handful of years ago where it was, obviously far too lean. We're feeling more comfortable now that we can manage a situation. Should we need to put a new roof on, or we need to do something like that, we have the wherewithal to do that. So that's been very much, in the works for the last couple of years to increase those.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful.
Mhm.
Other questions from the board?
So if I can add on to that, because yeah, you have a lot of units, you have 6 different buildings. And does that include the Micah homes or those in
Right.
addition?
That's building, we consider that the
Got
fifth.
it. Okay.
We just number them
Regardless.
in order of acquisition, right?
So regardless, 112K is a good start, but what do you think is the a more comfortable capital reserve to support what might be needed for all of those buildings?
Right. Oh, that's a good question. Is there a target number in mind? I think along the way, we've knocked out a couple of pretty significant projects. I'll kind of answer that in another way, I guess. We've made energy improvements in 3 locations, primarily through Energy Outreach Colorado. So some significant grant funds there. Of course, we were CDBG recipients of funds for some major structural work at another building. Next year, we're looking at probably at least 1 roof replacement. So we're going to be expending funds as we go, obviously for rehabilitation, but a few of our buildings have had major work done in recent years. So we don't expect that there's going to be a lot of activity necessarily at those unless, something unforeseen happens. But so I would say that to me, I think capital reserves, if we can shoot towards another, I believe our goal was in our strategic plan to increase that another 20% this year. I think if we keep doing that, if we can maybe come close to double of what we have, then I think we're in a category where we're probably less likely or needing to call on those types of funds or grants like CDBG or affordable home loan funds or things like that for repairs or maintenance types of things, and utilize those dollars really for further growth rather than that.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions from folks?
So
Karen,
I was wondering about, do you have people on the waiting list and how do they access, or do they just stay on the waiting list until something becomes available, or what happens?
Yeah.
Are they waiting,
Right, exactly. Well, that's the unfortunate consequence, I think, of lack of affordable housing, but we do maintain a wait list for all of our units from single rooms to 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Our greatest need seems to be in the 1-bedroom category, that serves, both a single parent potentially with a kiddo as well as a single person or a couple. So that's our sweet spot where we tend to have the most people on our waiting list. But last time I saw somewhere between 50 and 20 households were waiting to get into the in-between, and that fluctuates up and down. But we also intentionally kind of limit the applications that come in, so the wait time is not unreasonable. And we've gotten a little bit better this year, so we're more in the category of 2, 3, 4 months in waiting to get into the in-between. It was longer, but that's a tough one, and I think that's maybe both a challenge for us as well as an opportunity. But yes, we do maintain a wait list.
Karen Roney, I think you might have had another question.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I was on another screen. I couldn't see the panel here. So sorry, Karen. So, the in-between has been around for what, almost 30 years? And you built that on this collaborative referral and case management model and system. And you're still kind of operating with that system. So, tell me what you think is what really has made that particular collaborative case management and referral model work. And do you ever see a time where you might change that up?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So since its inception, it's really been about 3 things, affordable, stable housing. And then once that is in play, obviously in meeting people where they're at, exploring opportunities for growth and capacity building through that case management support, as well as life skills trainings, right? So those have always been the core of what we do, and continue to be so. I think what we found though is that over the past handful of years, especially, we've been absolutely taking on more and more of that responsibility of the ongoing case management. Some partners have fallen by the wayside as far as their capacity to do that. And so we're seeing the growing need, therefore we've added staff to meet that need. So yeah, I think I guess it's probably worth saying too that strategically or intentionally too along the way, we've added some contracts, we've added some other relationships, like with the city, with bridge housing, for example, and integrated treatment court that wants to use the Briarwood apartments for their needs. And so we've taken on a couple of partnerships, the permanent placements we have through the one home referral process, Department of Housing. Some of those have been recent additions in the last couple of years. LEAD program is another one. So along the way, we've reached out and said that, we're here. And if you've got a community that has specific challenges and otherwise doesn't have access to affordable housing, maybe we could be, we could fit the gap. So it is that, all of those things, plus our usual partner agencies that continue to do referrals to us. I just think how we are going about, I think we're taking a little more ownership as to the success planning involved with the residents and the outcomes on the flip side for them to move, for those in a transitional to move into a permanent setting. So I think it's just a little bit more intensive maybe than it has been. Or I should say we're continuing in that trend of providing more intensive support ourselves.
Councilwoman Christensen. You're muted still.
Thank you, Tim and Laura, so much for what you do. It's transitional housing is so lacking in this city. So it's really, what you do is so important. We have some members of this board who may not be familiar with the Micah homes, which I think is a really interesting model. Could you just give a brief kind of description of that and how it came about and how it was financed?
Do you want, Laura, do you want to speak to some of that? I don't want to just, take up all the air here. So I could fill in whatever, but go ahead if you like.
Oh, I just.
Laura, you're muted too.
I was just telling Tim to go right ahead.
Well, okay. In brief.
TikTok.
I know.
We're on the
Let's
clock
keep
here.
it going.
Gotcha. Well, so United Church of Christ, UCC church came to us and really explored this idea of building, essentially establishing a legacy for the church and doing something meaningful for the community. So they donated a 1/4 acre of land for permanent housing. We together sort of decided, I think the niche we wanted to or the population we wanted to impact were those who are going to be either considered to be senior and or disabled. And so that was the population we decided to focus on. And so there are 6 units there today, 4 1-bedrooms, 2 2-bedrooms. And it started with that gift of land, and then in between fundraised. The bulk of the dollars, it was about a $900,000 cost to the agency in the end. 500,000 of that came through worthy cause funds. There were individual donors in excess of about 150,000, and then the remaining balance of about 2,25,000 came from the affordable housing loan through the city of Longmont. And so that's an advantageous 0% loan, 20-year loan for us. So we were able to do it without traditional financing and without having to come up with dollars out of our own pocket. And I'm shorting a couple of others. There was Faith Community Lutheran Church threw in 40,000 as seed money to get things started in the entitlement process. And so, and again, there were some other significant donors in there, but that's what it looked like. The capital stacking, I guess, was layered that way.
Longmont Development Corporation.
Yeah, there's Longmont Development Corporation was about 60 grand exactly. So, and I'm probably missing somebody, so apologize if I did, but that was really the great demonstration of a community effort in the spirit of doing something right and good for the community for a long time coming. So.
I have a question from your application. You mentioned, so in 2020, it says that you had 68 move outs and 44% were what you'd consider graduates. Does that mean that a bunch of people moved out, but didn't complete the program for some reason or another? I guess I'm sort of trying to understand what that other 56% of folks did and how they did once they left, if they didn't complete the program.
I think that we would be considering graduates to be primarily our transitional housing people. So we
Okay.
may have had move outs from all the different aspects, the permanent supportive housing or other contract people that have moved on to other situations. But we really look at our transitional housing people as kind of our graduates from the program, and that they're participating in the life skills classes and other types of supports that we have to offer.
Got it.
Only about a third of our people are considered permanent in nature, and about 2/3 are some kind of transitional. And again, there's a few different categories within that, but yeah.
I was really impressed by the survey numbers that you included as well from the former residents. I'm curious sort of what your response rate on that was. So 95% of the folks who responded remain in stable housing.
Right.
That's an incredible outcome for the services. So I'm sort of curious of
Right.
how many people did you reach out to? How many responded? How many didn't? That sort of thing.
Laura, we're in the middle of actually doing that right now for 2021 and the process of collecting those. I'm not sure how the response rate has been this year. I believe in the one you're quoting, we had 24% of those surveyed, or those were that we had tended to survey, responded. So I think it's one of those, is that bad or good? I mean, it's tough to catch people when they're gone and out of your
It is.
world. So at the time, I think there's 24% was the last published numbers that we had, but we're kind of in the process of it right now. And this year we did something a little bit different to try to increase that. We incentivized through gift cards essentially. So we put it out there and say, if you respond to this, we'll come back with a gift card. So we're trying to incentivize people anyway to get them on the hook to participate. So I think we're seeing a little better numbers this year, but I don't know where we're at, if you know, Laura.
Yeah, I haven't quite been given the information yet, but we're still in the process of it. It is quite a process because, we do the mailing and then we text and call people and
Survey Monkey, we try, kind of every way possible to try to make it easy for people. So
I'm trying to pull it up to see if I can give you an answer. It's being very slow though. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Former residents survey. The numbers are not particularly high typically, but we make a real effort to get those responses. So
I think we're doing
So
10
the-
delegated courses here. So.
Beulah the buzzer did go off, so we have, and our time is complete.
oh
Wow.
wow, that was fast.
It does
goes
go
really fast.
fast. It does go fast.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time and I always appreciate the support from the city in all kinds of ways. So.
Yes, we do. Thank you all for taking the
you.
time to meet with us. We appreciate you.
Thanks for being here.
All
tonight,
right.
all that you all
Have a
do.
good night.
Good night.
See ya.
All right. Are you ready for the next one? Okay.
Hi there.
Hi, Lisa, how are you?
I'm doing well. I have to say, I just lost internet and I'm on my phone. So I hope
Oh.
that you can hear me fine. I'm so sorry.
We can hear you. We can see you and we can hear you, and we are ready for questions. So we have about 15 minutes.
Yep.
Caitlin is the chair of our advisory board, and she will facilitate the Q&A. The advisory board will ask you questions. You will provide answers to their questions. And if there's any time left before our 15 minutes are up, we'll open it up for you, Lisa, to say anything else that you would like to. So I will set the timer for 15 minutes and we are ready to go. Caitlin.
All right.
Hi, Lisa. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Do we have any questions to kick things off from the board? Karen Phillips.
Yeah, I was noticing that the your day program component, is that happened this October?
So and the lodge, our program is running nights until October 15th, and then we'll start 24/7. In our residential shelter, it's always been a 24/7 program.
Very nice. And I was wanting to know, what was the Bridge House?
I think I mentioned them as a partner that we would work with during employment. Bridge House is a large scale homeless service and employment agency across the Boulder, Denver metro area.
Thank you.
So Lisa, Caitlin, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Karen.
So Lisa, I'm trying to understand, so is the lodge in a separate facility than Mother House? Because it was not clear to me. I thought it was separate, but then when I read the proposal, I couldn't really tell.
I'm so sorry about that. You know, I actually, when I submitted it, I thought I was going to have the opportunity to clarify separately for Longmont, since we work with the city of Boulder regularly, and I didn't realize that I wouldn't. So yes, the lodge is run out of, it was in Har Hashem for the past year, which is a synagogue at 30th and Baseline. And now we're actually moving right next door to St. Andrews, which is literally across the parking lot from Har Hashem. And we'll be there for the next 12 months.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? Graham.
Thank you. I'm curious if this, I guess you're asking for funds for the case management that focuses on employment and job training. And I'm just curious if that person tries to develop relationships with employers that and not necessarily just recruiting agencies.
Absolutely. I think when we're dealing with folks who've been living on the street for prolonged periods of time, some of the agencies that do workforce development can be easier partners to work with for getting some of our harder to employ clients into the workforce. But for folks who've been employed within the past year, we work with everything you can imagine. We have folks who are doing grocery stores or fast food. We have folks at Mother House often who have higher degrees. We've got many folks who are working as nurses or who are working in education, et cetera. So really, we're just trying to match people with jobs that meet their skill set and their ability level. And I think that varies greatly depending on which agency we're talking about, how long a person has been unhoused for, and what obstacles they might have on the road to employment.
Got it. Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about, a lot of the agencies that we have talked to, there's obviously been changes with COVID. And I'm curious what has been the biggest challenge for Mother House during this time?
So actually, I would say that it's been very different between the two different things we run. In the residential program, in many ways, COVID was something of a gift for us. Oftentimes what we see is that our clients are so overwhelmed with trying to make various appointments across the county that their ability to make it from EFA to human services to an employment opportunity, pick their kids up, drop them off, go to the doctor's appointment, was so oppressive that they couldn't get everything done. And with COVID, they were suddenly given the ability to have Zoom meetings with a variety of different therapists, governmental agencies, to have some of their food bank things delivered to the door. it was phenomenal. The time
Mhm.
savings was, I think, miraculous for some of our folks. And it's something we've been talking to a lot of agencies about. How can we find ways to keep this up? On the other hand, for the lodge, it was certainly challenging when we're dealing with folks who are living outside for most of the day. COVID spreading protocols were particularly concerning to us. So making sure that we're finding ways to keep people 6 feet apart, to do the screenings we need to do, while concurrently offering an environment that feels safe, that's welcoming, that's feeding people, that's giving them comfort, and that's keeping everybody healthy, was difficult. But having said that, we had 0 outbreaks at either facility since the beginning of the pandemic. So I think we're working hard to keep everybody safe. We're working hard to do the things we need to do and still to deliver a service model that we believe in. And it's been going really well.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Karen.
Thank you, Caitlin. So just to clarify, so is the money that you're asking for to primarily support Mother House?
We are imagining that this money would go to an employment counselor who would work with all of our clients. And we have fewer clients at Mother House than at the lodge, and our clients at Mother House tend to be easier to employ. So we think that the bulk of the time will be spent at the lodge working with harder to employ cases, but that this person would also be stopping in for a few hours every week at Mother House to work with any of our clients there that our direct case managers are struggling with to secure housing.
So I guess what I would like to just clarify, is that because the city of Longmont is also a partner in the Homeless Solutions for Boulder County, our funding for services with like what you would be applying for the lodge, that goes through our HSBC and our funding through that process, not through the Human Service Agency funding process. So it would be that if we were to provide support for Mother House, it really would have to be for the Mother House program. So I did want to clarify that.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. When I spoke to the city of Boulder, they said that was not the case for how this program worked for them. So I didn't realize the 2 cities had different ways they would interact.
Yeah. So
no, I know you're different, but given that it's HSBC, I didn't realize that cities underneath the county umbrella would have different requirements for how they were operating with those county regulations. Okay, well noted. I would say then, yes, we would love to have somebody who could work full-time with our Mother House clients and with folks who are coming through. We also do in our outreach program, we work with a variety of clients through our Mother House residential program who aren't living on site, but who have additional needs for case management and staff. So in any given year, we have between 50 and 100 clients who we give diapers, formula, strollers, maternity goods, anything they need, and with whom we also engage in case management until they can find more stable solutions. So I would say that as an employment counselor for Mother House, not only could we engage them with the residents we have on site, but also with the clients who we see 1 to 4 times throughout the year and do that short-term case management on trying to find them solutions. And actually, I think employment tends to be one of the things that comes up most. On the whole, these are folks who are housed and who are encountering problems that they didn't anticipate and are trying to find ways to bridge the gap of providing the services they need to their families and engaging with new employment opportunities, new childcare opportunities, new rent opportunities, et cetera. And that program runs through our residential program, Mother House.
Eliberto.
Hey, Lisa, just a real quick question on the DOLA funding, because yeah, I'm learning a lot about DOLA funding myself, especially the ESG. Is this funding from previous CV pots, or is this new DOLA that you'll be applying for new ESG?
This is DOLA that we currently have. We
Okay.
have been able to access it since August 1st, and we are able to access it through August 30th.
Okay.
They keep
I was just
changing their
wondering.
timelines, Alberto, as I'm sure you know if you've been paying attention to it. So it took me a minute to figure out where
Well,
we are
I mean,
now,
they just,
but I believe that's the current status.
yeah, they just released it. They just released a NOFA recently that's due on November or something, I think. So yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah,
We've got the new LOI due in I think 11 days, and then the application
Right.
in November. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Other questions?
And maybe I can.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can follow up and say, although I hear you saying that the lodge program doesn't meet with what you're looking at today, but Alberta, yes, we will be applying for more funding there. So it's certainly our hope that when the current funding expires at the end of August, we'll keep that program running for another year. So we're looking at a 2-year runway, ideally at this point.
Other questions from the board? Graham.
How's the gelato fundraising going? I saw your
It's
website.
delicious. Did you have any of it?
No, but I'd want it now that I've seen your website.
If you get a chance, y'all, you should go down to Gelato Boy. They did a special fundraiser with us, and they did a sort of tongue-in-cheek flavor of potato chip and chocolate ice cream, which is sort of a play on being pregnant, which I think many of us have had those cravings before. So you can go by any Gelato Boy store and buy a pint. It is worth it for sure. We've been feeding plenty to our moms, I assure you.
We've been talking about food.
I know.
We're talking about pie and
That sounds
food,
interesting. Potato chips and chocolate.
and now ice cream for gelato.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well,
but
we're
that's-
also going to be doing some fundraisers in Boulder and in Denver where you can stop by and get a free manicure from manicurists across the county to support some of the trans initiatives that we're working on. So we'll be sure to send that on to you folks if you feel like coming in and getting your toenails or your fingernails painted to support housing for our trans population.
There you go,
It's
Graham.
fun to do the fun stuff.
The whole family will be there. Karen, Roni.
So I am curious, obviously, you all were Mother House and had a very specific population for many years, and you've taken off and you've expanded your services and who you're serving. Can you talk a little bit about how that happened, or how you all?
Absolutely. I think it's very, very integrated. So essentially what happened is at Mother House, as you know, we have a small house that we run. And we kept getting people coming who either we had to turn away because we didn't have room, because they had children who were significantly older, kids in middle school or high school, which falls outside of our mandate, or because they weren't pregnant and they came across our program and just felt like it seemed like a safe space for women or for trans folks, and they were hoping that there was a way for them to be in. And so consistently with these clients, we were telling them that we're sorry, we can't house them, and trying to find additional solutions. And as this kept happening, my operations director, Shannon, and I, we started calling other agencies and saying, you really have to start another emergency women's shelter. Like, it's been too long. We need this. We have so many folks that we can't turn to the right place because nothing's going on. And agency after agency we talked to said, we've got our hands full. So I think after we talked to the 6th or 7th, we said, well, if it's not going to be somebody else, it should be us. But we've got these folks who need a place to go, and we want to make sure that we can take care of them. And I think for folks who do qualify for our program and who are on the wait list, it gives them a place to stay until they can join us. And for folks who don't qualify for services, but who want that same love and care, and I think gender and sex specific programming that we bring with Mother House to come to their shelter work, we can offer them that through the lodge. So it feels to us like an extension of the way we offer services, and an extension of the less than an extension of the people to whom we offer it. The same sorts of folks, but less focused on whether they've had a baby in the last few years, and more on whether they meet the overall program requirements of being women, being trans, being non-binary, and needing that assistance.
So Caitlin, we have another couple of minutes. So if there are questions from the board, that'd be great. And if not, we can turn it over to Lisa to tell us something else that she thinks we need to know.
Yeah, it sounds like we've got a couple of minutes, Lisa. We'd love to hear if there's anything you'd like to share that maybe isn't reflected in your application, or that you think the board should know as we're looking at this.
This isn't what you're asking, but I actually am going to share something while I have you all there, which is I wanted to share that one of the struggles we have in housing folks through Mother House is that we get a fair number of clients from Longmont. In any given year, it's usually between 30 and 40% of women in a residential shelter who come to Longmont. And many times what they want to do is stabilize and then find permanent housing in Longmont, but they find that they are barred from service through the R Center programming services by virtue of now being residents in Boulder. And I just wanted to toss out that if there's any way we can work together to solve that, obviously we have, like, for example, we had a mom whose family's lived in Longmont for the last 6 generations. And she came to Boulder and she was staying in Mother House. She was with us for 4 months, and that was thought to be a disqualifying residency status for returning to housing inside of Longmont. So she had to seek housing in Boulder. And I understand that's not about our application, but I do think that the ways we work together and this opportunity to talk to all of you at once, I just want to mention if there's more ways we can find to be that stopgap solution for families in Longmont, to take people in the short term, to help them to stabilize, to help them to find employment, to help them to find safe places to give birth, and then also to help them to find permanent housing in Longmont when they find that to be home, that it would be phenomenal to find more ways to work together in that area.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Lisa.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think you've got most of our stuff in there. Like you said, we've had a busy few years. We've been expanding programming. We're having a lot of fun. I think, Karen, you're right that for a very long time, Mother House had a very singular focus. And I think we're feeling as we're moving into 2021 that there's just a lot more we can do, and a lot that we can and should be much more broad about the way we talk about women and the way we talk about children and the services we have to offer. And we're excited about what that looks like for us. And we're excited about the lodge, we're excited about Mother House. And I think ideally in the next few years, you'll see us continue to push in that direction of finding additional ways that we can work, not just with women, but also with trans parents, with non-binary folks, with their children, to make sure that they can find safe spaces across the county.
All right. So the buzzer went off. And so I think we are complete.
Jeopardy.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I hope it wasn't too bad from my phone. It was nice to see you all.
No, it worked out fine. So
Okay.
thank
Perfect.
you.
Bye.
Shakita, I saw your hand, your electronic hand go up there at the
Oh.
last minute, and we didn't have quite time there to jump in. I hope.
No worries, no, it's all right.
You should tell Karen and Eliberto what your question was so that they can just send it to Lisa. Be like, we didn't ask this on that.
I think you all still have access to the question function on EC Impact, by the way.
Like to send a question.
Yeah, yeah.
I do see view ask questions on here.
Yeah, you all still have that functionality. It was never taken away.
I didn't know that functionality was there in the first place, like until you said that.
I can send an email out. Yes, you guys, they will receive. I got questions when I was applying. I got questions from the Longmont board.
Wait, you click the question and answer
Yeah.
link on the left hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still there.
I think it's because we have this hearing, so Boulder didn't have these hearings all the time, because I got tons of questions from Boulder. But they didn't always have this set up. They usually just, I think they chose a few to meet, but they didn't hear everybody. So if you have a question, you can always send the agency a question.
Karen, is their grant application going to get thrown out because they're asking for employment assistance dollars and that's through another route? Or?
I don't, because I was going to ask that. So Eliberto, they didn't ask for housing. They asked for employment assistance.
That still fits under self-sufficiency.
But I think, didn't we say we don't fund that?
Well, what we haven't funded is so ever applied for this. Really what they're asking for is a case manager for employment, right? They're not, so what we didn't fund was when workforce was literally asking for funds for positions. What they're asking for here is a case manager that focuses on employment. I mean, in my mind, that's different.
And sometimes we've moved agents. They've said we want this category, and we've moved them.
Right. So
Right.
if they were in the housing or they asked for housing, I put them in self-sufficiency.
well, they asked for employment.
Right, so so in my mind, they're asking for a case manager. I think the bigger question is, and is going to focus on the lodge, because I think BC point is valid, right? This has to be about Mother House, not the lodge.
I think we want to follow up with City of Boulder, because they probably asked, well, they probably didn't ask Vicky. Well,
No,
I know, that's us, so we'll
That's us. We'll work on that.
yeah.
But yeah, I think in my mind, Karen, and you and I can have a further conversation. In my mind, as long as they're not asking for a position, like for us to fund positions for them, and they're asking for a case manager, then that's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have a whole part of the program, so.
yeah.
All right, well, it's time, so I'm gonna let Lisa in.
All right.
Hello,
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
We're great. So welcome
Thank you.
to the 2021 Human Service Agency hearing for 2022 funding. This is your Human Services Advisory Board that will be making the decisions. Caitlin is our chair, Caitlin Abbott, and we have 15 minutes for us to ask you questions and for you to provide answers. And I'll let you know when 15 minutes is up. And if we run out of questions, then you'll have the remainder of time to say whatever you want to say.
Thank you.
Okay, so Caitlin, I'm hitting the button.
All right. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone with a question to kick us off? Polly.
Lisa, can you kind of give us a brief rundown of how COVID has affected the Recovery Cafe? Whether there are a lot more people, a lot less people, how you dealt with counseling and the actual cafe experience with COVID going on. Thanks.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to share about our work and to thank you all. Most of you are volunteers, and it's quite the heavy lift that you do. I know volunteering, I'm working, but volunteering these many hours into the evening is challenging. So I appreciate your dedication to our community. COVID, we closed twice and reopened twice, and we went virtual, which doesn't work very well for our model. Our model is all about being together in community. And you may know that there's a link between isolation and addiction, and certainly mental health and isolation. So a lot of the folks that we serve struggled mightily. We all struggled mightily with COVID when we were in lockdown and being isolated. And we worked as hard as we could to reopen as quickly as we could, and we did. But when the Boulder County Public Health mandated that we had to close, we closed. We were one of the few that reopened twice, and we reopened for good starting on February 6th. Masked this year, masked, following all safety protocols. And our members were just so happy to be back together that nobody cared that they had to wear a mask. And certainly when they're eating and drinking, you don't have to wear a mask. So we're constantly reminding folks, okay, put them back on, put it back on. And then we had to go back to mask wearing. I don't know, I've lost track, but it's been more than we started wearing masks before the mandate. I think in early August. And we have seen a steady increase. Our membership definitely diminished during COVID. We tried mightily to stay in touch with our folks, and we expanded our phone support, I think fourfold. And we stayed in touch with as many of our members as we could, either with text, email, phone, Zoom, just didn't work. Our recovery circles, which are a core piece of our model, didn't work. So we resorted to one-on-one check-ins with the members that we could stay in touch with. And when we reopened in February, we probably only saw, I would say, half a dozen of our members come back. So we now have more than 30 active members, and we've seen close to 80 folks since we reopened in February. And we talk a lot about what COVID meant and what it means, and just very, very, very challenging. A lot of folks relapsed, which isn't surprising. And I'm sure you're aware that last year, incidences of overdose doubled in local emergency rooms, and suicide attempts up 100%. So we were anticipating seeing an increase in folks seeking our services, and that has happened. We've seen a lot of referrals, new referrals that we weren't seeing before COVID, including from Centennial Peaks Hospital, a lot more from Mental Health Partners, from Longmont's Diversion Lead Core Angel Initiative, and Hope. But we get referrals from a lot of different folks, even from outpatient and folks who are post inpatient treatment. They're sent our way, and it's not a good fit for everybody. But for those who are able to participate fully in our services, we just joy in their progress and how much they tell us that we've helped them. And we're not out of COVID. I mean, it's just we're still here. So it's challenging. Our board recently made the decision to require staff and volunteers to show proof of vaccination before entering the cafe or a medical waiver, but we're not requiring our members. That's just a barrier too far. The folks that we serve are so vulnerable. To put one more barrier in front of them, just it's not something we're willing to do. We do talk about vaccine availability every day during announcements, and we encourage everyone to get vaccinated, along with our other announcements about harm reduction and testing and all the kinds of things that some of the people that we're serving could probably take advantage of.
Karen Roney. Sorry. And then Karen Roney, and then Karen Phillips.
Go ahead, Karen Phillips.
Oh.
Okay. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for coming this evening. I was just, this is sort of a mean question, but how do you check their sobriety?
It's the honor system. We request that folks are 24-hour substance free, and we don't test. So we can tell if somebody smells of alcohol, or it's a little hard with a mask. I'll admit that. But if somebody is visibly intoxicated or has the odor of marijuana, we ask them to leave. And we've had some folks with behavioral issues, and typically like, oh, I think they're probably on meth. It takes a while, folks come in and they're well behaved, and then you can see once somebody gets comfortable, their guard is down, and then we can see some disruptive behavior. So we have protocols, staff does, on how to handle that, and we ask folks to leave, and usually they do very calmly. We've had a few incidents where it wasn't so calm, and so we always say, come back tomorrow. We just come back 24 hours substance free, come back tomorrow. There's always a way back in, unless somebody has done something to make others feel unsafe.
So when people relapse, they also have that capability of maybe coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Another day.
Absolutely. There's always, like I said, unless it boils down to safety, and we have had to ask a few folks not to come back, there's always a way back in.
Great. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Karen Roney.
So I am interested in the Recovery Cafe Longmont's relationship with A Way Forward.
Other than co-referrals, we have no deeper partnership. I've met with Debbie a few times virtually, and she came into the cafe once, and actually saw her last night at the Longmont Community Foundation anniversary, and we said we need to get together again and see how we can partner. But they offer counseling. We don't. And that's how we distinguish.
That's
our
how you
model.
would distinguish between
Yes.
the two.
Theirs is counseling, professionally trained counseling, and ours model is community that's peer support and peer led. And our circles are weekly check-ins, and we're very clear that it's not counseling. Our circles are an opportunity for our members to get to know each other on a deeper level. And you share a challenge, a triumph, and you hopefully set a goal for the following week. And it's that little accountability piece that makes the circles kind of the bread and butter of the model. So you'll go to your circle and your peers will say, so did you apply to that job you said you were going to apply to last week? Or did you call your mother? You said you're going to call your mother. Or did you are you still not drinking? Are you still sober? And that's the magic really of the model. And having that support and being held accountable by your peers is really what helps folks make progress. But we're very clear, we don't offer counseling.
Yeah.
Or therapy.
So Caitlin, I have a different question, if that's all right. So so I'm just wondering, Lisa, I mean, because you get a lot of, well, you get some support, I don't know if a lot, but you get support from the Recovery Cafe, the original one, the mothership, I guess, for lack of
the network.
I know there's like a correct word for it, but so is there, does the Recovery Cafe model have recommendations for, financial sustainability? So I'm just kind of curious, because I know that you are looking at growing, you're looking at a new building or finding a location so that you don't continue to be in where you are now. You want a more accessible space. So I'm just wondering what kind of guidance, or if there's principles that the Recovery Cafe model provides to its franchisees around financial sustainability of this kind of a model.
The support we got, and so when you join the network, for the first 2 years, you're considered an emerging member. And this is a social licensing model. And as part of that, the network grants, and it's a grant, you have to apply and you have fulfillments and requirements, 2 $50,000 capacity building grants. And after 2 years, assuming you've achieved everything that you're supposed to, or they anticipate you will, you become a full member. We're past that point, but we haven't had our site visit, so we're not officially a full member. I don't think that there will be continued financial support. We have not, other than small challenge grants. They've offered $10,000 challenge grants around Giving Tuesday or Colorado Gives Day. But I'm pretty sure those $50,000 capacity building grants are gone. But part of that work was showing, making sure that cafes have an understanding of healthy fundraising. We had to submit a fundraising plan, and we had to submit, as parts of those grants, all kinds of capacity building elements. They don't just give you the money, they make you work for it. So after 2 years, they anticipate, or they assume that, okay, you're on your way, we helped you get started, and now you're off and running. But we do have other forms of support. I do not think there's going to be ongoing financial support. I haven't had the nerve to ask.
Yeah, and I wasn't necessarily suggesting that, but I just wondered what kind of guidance or consultation that they provided. So that was really
yes, and ongoing. I'm confident that anytime I have a question about something, and we have weekly meetings, and there are quarterly meetings, and there's an annual retreat, hopefully not virtual again. So there's ongoing support. I fear there's not going to be ongoing financial support.
Yeah, and I assumed that, so thank you.
Other questions from the board? I have one for you, Lisa. I think we talked about this maybe last year. It all fuzzes together, but I know that some of the funds you're requesting are really around a bilingual advocate here, and I'd love to hear what, sort of how that, I know COVID has changed things, but I'd love to hear sort of what has happened in the last, year or so in terms of bilingual outreach and sort of the programs that you have there that I think that you're looking to continue, if I'm correct.
Absolutely. Yes, I applied for a bilingual bicultural peer support grant from the Colorado Health Foundation and received it. It's a 2-year grant. We're in our 2nd year. I don't know that they're going to continue that, but we're committed to keeping our bilingual bicultural support in-house, whether we have to come up with the funds for it or not. We took advantage of COVID, and she became a certified recovery coach and also got her peer support certification. So both of our peer support specialists are certified. We're all recovery coaches. And she has partnered with Hope and Elle there and done outreach. Both of our peer support specialists have. And she is the only bilingual peer support person doing outreach with these partner agencies. So her name's Felicia. And whenever she's able to go out and connect with some folks who are experiencing homelessness that are monolingual Spanish speakers, she helps them with resources that they might not be aware of, and certainly helps folks learn about the cafe. And then when folks do come into the cafe, she's really the only one who can offer the kind of resources and support and referrals to our monolingual Spanish members, of which now we have 2 monolingual Spanish speaking members, and we probably have 4 bilingual Spanish speaking members. So it's just been a joy to watch that program expand and bring in culturally appropriate games and songs and celebrate holidays. And all of our signage is bilingual, and we have part of our website is now also bilingual, and we've become a model for the network. They are following our lead, and a lot of other cafes are expanding their services to include bilingual and other multilingual, depending on what city they're in, services. So and we've just barely touched. There's so much more that we can be doing. We're going to participate in Dia de los Muertos on Saturday, along with 2 of our board members, and we're hoping that will help expand our outreach. So it's something that we're very much committed to, and I would love to see it expand, because she's just one person, and it's hard. It's very, very challenging to be the one person providing that kind of support. I worry about compassion fatigue with our peer support specialists.
Sort of as a follow-on, do you foresee in the future having a circle that is for monolingual Spanish speakers, for example?
Absolutely. Right now, if our Spanish speakers have the choice of attending our English circle or having a one-on-one check-in with Felicia. And we offer that to all of our members. If they can't make one of our circle times, we'll do one-on-one check-ins with them.
Got it. Great.
So our time is up. And can I, just a quick question. So where do you go, or how do you become a certified peer coach or recovery? Yeah.
Oh, well,
The two certifications you talked about, how do you How do you get those?
A recovery coach is offered
Right.
by, it's somebody who's trained in, it's CCAR, it's Connecticut, I forget what it stands for. But there are several folks in the state of Colorado, including Victor King right here in Boulder County, who does training. So those are, and everything's being done virtually now. And then the Colorado Mental Wellness Network is Denver based. And that's where our staff has been trained.
Okay.
And it's about 100-hour training. The recovery coach training is 40 hours.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was just curious.
No, I can send you those links if you'd like.
That's all right. That's all right. I took a note of it. So
Thanks so much for being here, Lisa. We appreciate your time this evening.
Well, thank you all so much. And again, thank you for this hard work that you're doing. It's very much appreciated.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
all right. So are we ready for the last one?
Hello.
Hi, Hattie. How are you?
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Ooh, I have a very bright light in my face. Sorry about that.
Your shadow.
It's dark outside, so I'm not used to like functioning, without like daylight in my room. Let me see what I can do here. That might be better.
So are you the sole representative tonight?
Unfortunately, I am the sole representative tonight. Cynthia had her COVID booster yesterday and is feeling miserable at the moment. So
Okay.
she messaged me about an hour ago and said, "You are it."
Okay. All right.
So
Well,
I'm
I'm
hoping I
sorry.
get some sympathy points from all of you tonight.
Well, we know you'll do a good job, and we're sorry that Cynthia is not feeling well. So so this is the Housing Human Services Advisory Board. They are responsible for making recommendations about how to distribute the funding for 2022.
Yes.
Caitlin Abbott is our chair this year. She will facilitate the session. We have 15 minutes. The board members will ask questions. You will provide great answers.
Yes.
And if there's any time left, it will be yours to tell us whatever else you think we need to know. So if you're good with that, we are good with that. And Caitlin, we are ready to begin.
We are. All right. Does anyone on the board have a question to start? I half saw your hand go up, Karen, and I thought you were ready to jump right back in.
Karen's seen this show before, right?
Okay, I do have a question for you, Heidi. COVID has obviously impacted a lot of agencies and ability to deliver services. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how that has affected particularly the screening that you all do for both STIs and mental health.
Sure. So, when COVID first hit, I was serving as interim director at the time. And so there were, so many things changing on a day-to-day basis. And, we initially made a commitment to keeping our doors open, but scaled back some of those preventative screenings, those like non-urgent situations for routine care, like a lot of folks were doing. And we were really focusing on people who were symptomatic, not COVID symptomatic, but STI symptomatic or unintended pregnancy, those types of things. And so we certainly did commit to keeping doors open, but working in a lighter capacity. So in our Boulder location, we had 2 providers typically, and we scaled that back to 1. Longmont, we were open, during, most of 2020 at our regular hours. What's happened as a result of COVID and healthcare provision is that we've struggled with staffing. And I think we noted that in the grant, especially at our entry-level position. So the medical assistants, we've seen a lot of people exit the healthcare field, COVID burnout, whatever it may be. And while we don't do COVID acute care or screening or testing or treatment or any of that, we've seen the whole healthcare system impacted quite a bit by the aftermath of COVID and what we're dealing with now. And so you may all, notice that our Longmont location is not even open as much as it used to be pre-COVID or even during 2020. Staffing shortages have been such that we can't safely see patients as we intended to. And so we're back in seeing annual exams and, the typical STI screenings, which we've never ceased at all during COVID. But, it's like an aftermath of COVID kind of scenario that we're dealing with the staffing piece. So really trying to work at models where we may not need that kind of medical assistant support, having our providers do some of those initial screenings on their own to try to be able to offer the services. And, we haven't had issues at the provider level necessarily, but it's really that entry level support piece. So, still dealing with COVID on some level in terms of, we rapidly created a telehealth program. And, with a lot of the services that we provide, finding that patients really do prefer that in-office experience. And so trying to figure out how to continue to use telehealth to support the work that we're doing, especially when we haven't been able to have our full capacity as anticipated. So, continuing to navigate daily with, all those things that you may not and have anticipated initially with COVID, but we're seeing this kind of domino effect of it on healthcare.
Great, thank you so much. Eliberto, I think you had your hand raised.
She answered it because I actually had a conversation with Cynthia a while back about staffing. And when we talked, she told me that was their biggest challenge in coming up. So Heidi addressed it. So
Got it.
Question.
Karen Roney.
Thank you. So I have a staffing question and another question. So kind of building on the staffing question, and not only are you struggling to find staff, but it looks like that over half of your staff are relatively new and they've been there less than 2 years. So, I guess, and maybe you've already answered it in terms of, well, I'm just wondering how you are onboarding and making sure that you're able to transfer knowledge and how, and how you principles of good practice. So how is that happening? I mean, that's quite a challenge, I would imagine.
It is, as you're speaking to the longest standing staff member at the moment. I've been with the organization for 25 years as an employee, and prior to that as a volunteer. I carry a lot of that institutional knowledge while I don't work in the healthcare provision side of things. Certainly some of the history and the rationale is why we do things. And we had facility issues today with outside lighting, and they're like, well, why didn't we do this? And, I'm like, I can't remember in 2010 when we renovated why exactly we put the light here instead of there. But, fortunate that we brought on an HR coordinator about a little over 2 years ago. And previously that lived in my finance world. And I mean, she's been nonstop, onboarding, interviewing, recruiting, training, working on staff retention strategies, developing a employee engagement committee, seeing a lot of moving pieces. I mean, it has been difficult. The good news is that our practitioners, our clinicians are fairly stable. People who've been there for 4, 6, 10, 12 years in terms of the clinicians themselves. And so in terms of the provision of healthcare services, there's a lot of consistency and expertise in terms of the work that they're doing. A shift from our physician who had been with us for 13 years. We have hired a new physician who will be starting either December 1 or January 1. So yes, new, but this is actually the woman that we were bringing in was a volunteer back in the early 80s, is my understanding too. I mean, I wasn't there then, so I don't know, but I'm kind of coming full cycle there. So really just working on bolstering documentation and, maintaining that communication and access to resources. We're part of an independent physicians group. And so in terms of utilizing our healthcare records and whatnot, there's a broader group that helps support new providers, new medical assistants in integrating with the system. But goodness, it is a challenge, Karen. And I know Ellie Berto referenced speaking to Cynthia about it. We've had to shift our pay scale somewhat. I mean, we're a local nonprofit organization and we can't compete with UC Health and Centura and Boulder Community Health. And we'll get people in, we'll take an extern, we'll work with them, we'll navigate their learning process. And then they're like, well, I can go make $2 an hour more at UC Health. And then they go. Yeah. So recognizing that, bumping up.
Thank you. Yeah, you don't have, yes. Thank you. Yeah. And you're not alone, obviously, right. and what's I'm
sure happening. This is not the first time you've heard this in these meetings tonight.
So. No, and I think we're all experienced, but it has been, I think a particular challenge. So my second question is really about, so Heidi, you've been around for a long time. I've been around for a long time. And, when I see on your strategic plan or kind of one of your strategic goals is that you're wanting to build a stronger presence in Longmont. And, women's health has been in Longmont for 15 years. And I guess I am wondering how and why that is still a strategic goal 15 years later. I've seen it. We've had conversations about a stronger presence and it still shows up and it's 15 years later. So it's fair because you've been around all those 15 years and then some. So I'm curious about that.
Right. And this is where, it's unfortunate that Cynthia is not here. She is a Longmont resident. She can, she comes at it from a position of experience of living in that community and engaging in that community. We struggle somewhat with where the Longmont location is located. We share a space with Wild Plum and, oh my God, why is it dropping my name?
Safe Shelter.
Thank you, Safe Shelter. We're in a COA together. I communicate with them all the time. So,
and I get that those been challenges. So I guess it's really about it. What have you tried to do that hasn't worked and you're still trying to figure it out?
Sure. I think it's really trying to find that connection between what's documented community need versus people who are accessing the services. And it's hard to understand why people aren't coming, right? And so, we thought when the Planned Parenthood in Longmont shut down years ago, that would have been a huge opportunity for us to attract some of those patients. It's my understanding, because I actually know the manager from that clinic personally and said that, Planned Parenthood's policy was to refer only to other Planned Parenthood agencies. And rather than say, oh, well, there's another clinic like a mile down the road, but instead you can go to Fort Collins or you can go to Boulder. So, unfortunately, in my role, Karen, is, finance, and I'm not super integrated in with the marketing and piece of that and some of the board's vision in terms of how to collaborate with the other entities in Longmont again. And I have to attribute some of the turnover that we've had in staff. We've built connections, made relationships, participated in community, groups. And then I think COVID certainly had a factor in that, because there, all of a sudden you stop those community events and those outreach efforts and those collaborations that were, sort of slowly building and kind of ebb and flow. I wish I had a great answer for you. We just, keep thinking, wow, this should look different at this point in the game. And even right now, I mean, it breaks my heart that right now it's the Longmont Clinic that's not, that is suffering due to the staffing shortage. But, unfortunately, we struggle with a significantly higher no-show rate in the Longmont Clinic. We make reminder calls, we do reminder texts, we do next day scheduling, and we still seem to have a struggle with the patient population in Longmont, more so than in Boulder. But working on trying to find creative solutions to meet those clients where they're at and figure out how we can be, maybe it's early hours, maybe it's weekend hours, really trying to look through some of those things and doing some more regular patient surveys to kind of get that data and really maybe be more specific in our targeting approach to that population.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Eliberto?
So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. I mean, I think I had that same conversation with Cynthia about the no-shows and just how challenging Longmont is. So let me talk about your. I mean, so one, it's great that Boulder is led by a Latina woman. At that level, to have a CEO who is a person of color is awesome. And as the board is building relationships, right, and trying to build strong relationships in Longmont, what is the board trying to do to ensure that they are bringing on, the majority of your clients in Longmont are Latinos, right?
They comprise a greater population certainly than they do at the Boulder Clinic.
Right. And so
and honestly, like Longmont is the community that we are seeing the largest growth in terms of patient numbers. As people are moving outside of city of Boulder and moving to outlying areas, it's the Longmont population that we're seeing the steady growth compared to some of the other communities. So it's why is it like, turning into what we expected? Hard to say.
And this question may be more for Cynthia than, but maybe something that you can share with her and she can, respond by email or whatever, but
sure.
What is the board doing? What is she doing to ensure that the relationship you build, that you are bringing in people to the board that can help you create that stronger presence in Longmont? To Karen's point, I know that I was officed up there with you guys when I started. And that is a tough location. You are hidden. You are hidden away back there. But what it would be wonderful if you had board members not only from Longmont but from the populations that you're seeing the most growth in. I think would be really helpful. So what is the board doing on that route?
Sure, and I agree. This is probably a better question directed at Cynthia because my involvement with the board is not as vast as Cynthia's, of course. I interact regularly with the finance committee, but in terms of board development and what their strategic plans are is the board themselves. I'm not really deeply involved with that. We have had people from Longmont, but I don't know, a couple of years ago, we had a board member from Longmont, she just cycled off. And I'm trying to think right now if there are any other board members in Longmont. And again, COVID's made it such that I haven't had personal contact with anyone on the board for, quite some time now. And I really only engage directly with finance. So I think if you are comfortable with it, perhaps reaching out to Cynthia with a couple of these questions would be really more enlightening, I think, than what I can offer you in terms of that aspect of it.
And I'll just add on to Eliberto's, because again, I've been around a long time. And some things I remember, some things I don't, but this conversation about board development and diversity and representation from Longmont has been an ongoing conversation with the previous leadership. So it has been way beyond COVID. And so, and I'll just speak for me, it's beyond, we just need a Longmont representative, or we need someone from, that represents this particular community. And maybe that is part of the struggle about, really truly having that Boulder Women's Health has a truly engaged relationship with the Longmont community. Ain't feeling that. And identifying a board member, I mean, I think it really needs to be a much different approach than what it has been for the past many years. And again, I think that's probably a conversation with, with Cynthia, but it's and when you say, well, and then the Longmont clinics, it's the only one that is not, it's the one that's having the shortage of staff, shortage of hours and services.
We're still short in Boulder, a provider, many
Right.
as well.
Right.
Yes.
But in terms of the impact has been in this community. So I think it's a really strong message. It's important that that women's health figures that out. I think for sure.
Sure. No, I hear you. And I wish I could answer more directly to some.
I know. So
around board.
But you're
you
here.
can ask me anything about the budget, I will knock your socks off. But unfortunately, this is, again, more Cynthia's area. And I think right now we do only have one board member that resides in Longmont. And so I recognize that. That's not the right answer, but that's all I can.
It's the answer that you have. So
it's the answer that I have, and I'm not going to try to convince you that it's anything.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So so Beulah did go off. So we are we have our 15 minutes is up.
Okay, well, I appreciate you accommodating us. I know you rescheduled initially because Cynthia was out of town Monday. So here we are, and it's still just me. But if you are willing to do so, I would encourage you to reach out to Cynthia with getting some more feedback on some of these things that I wasn't able to answer as thoroughly as you would have liked. So, and I do appreciate your time and your ongoing support. I do. It does mean a lot.
Thanks, Heidi.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Have a good night.